So, like a lot of things I admire that aren't superhero or anime related, I haven't gushed about my love for animation on this channel and how close it relates to my passion for video games. So, I figured why not take inspiration / blatantly rip off another YouTuber my long list of inspirations by talking about why animation needs to have a resurgence in gaming. But before we jump into the video, I did a poll on my Instagram asking if you guys think photorealism in gaming is oversaturated and if cartoony graphics need to make a comeback. And after about a day, it ended with 64% of you agreeing and 36% of you disagreeing. But for most of the day, it was actually split down the middle 50-50. So I do expect there to be a good chunk of people who disagree with me, which is completely fine. So anyways, on to the history lesson. So about 15 years ago, during the 6th generation of consoles, because of the hardware, games didn't look all that realistic. And the games that tried to looked like dog shit just a year later. Also, the discs were small. Instead of the Blu-rays and proprietary cartridges of today, we were still on that standard DVD. If it can only hold a movie at 480p, your game is probably not going to be any better. So the solution to this problem was the same one that the industry had for a while. Make that game stylized. Whether it be anime, cel-shaded, pixel art, or any other style, games that were animated were not only less graphically intensive, but they stand against the test of time. This is mostly me combining facts with my personal experience to come to an educated guess, but in my opinion, it all adds up. Because once the technology came around, so did the photorealism. Now sure, there was the occasional animated game, most likely from a Japanese developer, but even the heavily animated shit of yesteryear started to show off its graphical prowess. Now is this inherently a bad thing? Well, no. Trying new things with technology can open up new possibilities never thought of before. It's how the industry has strived for so long. But there needs to be a balance. And there wasn't. Almost immediately, pretty much everybody jumped ship to photorealism. And now, except for Nintendo and most Japanese games, animated graphics started to fade away. Another possible reason could be the game industry feeling like they had to become more serious to be seen as legitimate. Less animation, which is still seen as kid stuff by the masses, and more action games with A-list actors. Less Jet Set Radio, more Call of Duty 10, fuck the terrorists. And yeah, games nowadays are truly impressive to look at, showing every tech isn't a bad thing, yada 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 bullshit. I just want more games that I can play a decade later and not have it be an eyesore. Games from just 5 to 6 years ago that at the time were marveled for their graphics look fucking atrocious by today's standard. Looking at you, amazing Spider-Boy. Now of course there are caveats. And when I bring up this argument, the F game is brought up and I refuse to admit its existence on this channel or even mutter its name. But you get my point. Once consoles could recreate realistic graphics well enough, animation, or specifically stylized animation, wasn't needed. It wasn't the focus. The focus then shifted to pushing the what the fuck? The focus shifted to pushing the consoles to their absolute limit. What the fuck is wrong with me? Personally, I believe I'm a substance over style kind of guy. But a nice art style along with some great music and pretty good sound design makes for a nice aesthetic. Yeah, that word has been absolutely ruined by the internet. But late 90s, early 2000s animation, especially cel-shaded, designs with thick borders, and designs with sharp edges are my absolute favorite. Jet Set Radio especially, despite me being fucking terrible at the game, is one of my all-time favorite games, mostly because of its art and music, and it pretty much helps that the gameplay is not that bad either. But Twitter, yes, Twitter, has broadened my taste in different styles of art, and now I think a game with the artist Ken 2 style would be an absolute dream come true. Okay, so I'm contractually obligated to bring Spider-Man up in at least every other video or they'll kill my dog, so let's just get this over with. The reason I'd much rather play something like this, rather than this, comes down to a few reasons, but it mostly just comes down to personal preference. It also doesn't help that I'm not that good at this game after 14 years, but I digress. Back to the personal preference thing. Realism is cool for a while, but when almost all the games you play look the same, it just gets exhausting. But playing a game that's one artist's specific style I adore will always be a lot more rewarding to experience. Which is one of the reasons why games based on animated shows or movies are ones that I seek out. The incredible 60s spy movie feel, Spectacular Spider-Man's simple yet effective style, the DCAU character designs, that universe especially. Like, call it nostalgia pandering, but if a 3D action game based on Batman the Animated Series came out today, I'd probably be the happiest guy on planet Earth. Growing up watching Boomerang, watching the same Disney movies over and over again, and playing these animated games made me appreciate animation and art in general. It even got to the point where I began drawing and painting art myself, some works that I'm still proud of to this day, honestly. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying to only make animated games based on pre-existing properties. Just make great games with amazing color palettes and style. Luckily, older games like Battle for Bikini Bottom are being remastered, and even whole new games such as Gods and Monsters are being developed. Animation isn't dead, you guys, the resurgence has begun. Let's just keep that fucking train rolling. So I've made my case, so we're even seeing the solution to this quote-unquote problem. But before I let you leave, here's a quick wish list of animated games I want to see made. A Scott Pilgrim game.
But we already had a Scott Pilgrim game!
Yeah, it was infamously removed from all online stores and there's no way to play it nowadays. I'm talking a whole new game, like a 3D beat 'em up, or even a rhythm game where you play as members of the band performing songs from the film. Now that'd be pretty cool. A game set in Tokyo. I have no clue where I'm going with this, and this is probably me just being a big weeb, but I want to be able to walk and play around in an animated Tokyo, and not in the usual anime style. We already have a great anime game like that set in Akihabara. I'm thinking something fun, set in Tokyo with an art style similar to Ultimate Spider-Man. Speaking of spooters, an Into the Spider-Verse game. Look, Insomniac, keep the PS4 series about Peter Parker and make a separate game about Miles Morales from Spider-Verse. In fact, it doesn't even have to be based on Spider-Verse, just make an animated spin-off game centered around Miles in the vein of the PS4 game so I can be at peace. A Clone Wars game. Not the Clone Wars, we have plenty of games based on that series, but just Clone Wars, the 2D animated show released in 2004. If there was a game based on this show centered around Jedi on a battlefield with Jedi Academy level lightsaber duels, I'd literally cry at George Lucas's feet. A DCAU game. Since this universe is still technically going on, a game based on the DC animated universe isn't completely out of the question. Yes, there are games based on the Batman animated series and Superman the animated series, but those, suck. I think a solid Justice League game would probably be the best thing to do. And that's about all I can think of off the top of my head. Animated games are my shit, so if you have a recommendation, throw it down in the comments. And if you're one of the 34%, tell me how you disagree in the comments as well. But to the game industry, you've heard my demands. You have 24 hours to announce an animated game set in Tokyo, or you're fucked.